through. So I am really excited to connect with you guys today because, well, let's just say this is good information. And it's good information that, in my opinion, is going to help take you from here to there. I hope these last few weeks, this is week 3, have been helpful for you. I hope that you've gotten a space to just talk and process and write. I'm going to recap for just a minute. The first week, we talked about taking 100% responsibility for our lives, which means that we have to give up complaining, blaming, and excuse making. We also talked about knowing what you want. And honestly, I think a lot of us are still stuck there. You know, what do we even want out of this life in all 7 areas? What do we want life to look like? So we spent some time really getting clear on what we want. And then last week, we talked about once we know what we want, how do we set a clear, defined, time-based goal, and then create affirmations and visualizations that surround and support those goals. And that's like the perfect storm of this whole thought process, is that once you know what you want and you get really clear and you're really excited, like, it has to happen. It just has to happen, because that's just the way the universe works. Like, the how figures itself out. The subconscious brings things into your life that help line up with your goals, affirmations, and visualizations. But today is going to be a little bit of a tougher topic. We are going to talk about cleaning up our incompletes and messes, because if it were just that easy, don't you think we would have done it already, right? If it were just that easy, we'd all have all of our goals, with all 7 areas already accomplished. But there's things that stop us. There are things that stop us, and a lot of times it's sitting right below the surface. So before we get started, we are going to do a few things, and I just want to apologize for my nose. I got my son's cold. Eli is 3, and he brings it home first. He always gets it first, and then Brandon gets it, and then I get it, and so far Owen's safe. So, but it just happened today, which is a big bummer right before Christmas. All right. But before we get started, I want to start with the greens and defend. Yes, I will. I'll do more than doubling up on my greens. Hey, Barb. I know Barb Hauser is in the middle of moving right at Christmas time. Crazy. All right. So we are going to spend a few minutes in this meditation. And I want to tell you 2 stories. You guys have seen or heard me talk about this over the past few weeks. Like, every time you learn about something or think about something, like, all of a sudden you see it everywhere. So recently, Tim Ferriss talked about how meditation was like a one common thread between all these successful people that they practiced every morning, some sort of mindfulness or meditation practice in the morning. I heard that. And then just yesterday, I was watching 2 YouTube videos while I was working out. I try to do personal development. Both of them said the first thing that they do in the morning is drink water and do their meditation, do their praying, do their journaling, do their mindfulness exercise. And I was like, okay, I hear you. It's coming from everywhere. This is something successful people are doing. Then we should do it. We should do it. A lot of us know this, but are we actually doing it? So there's on the screen, you'll see it increases gray matter, cultivates willpower, builds focus and concentration, boosts cognitive function, helps with depression. It physically changes the brain. We've talked about that. It eases stress and anxiety. It helps with sleep, decreases pain, boosts immune system. It helps with relationships, increases compassion, just gives your mind a break. Oh, I love that. Sarah said she put on a facial and she is ready to meditate. Like, she is exactly, right? So just know that we all know we should be doing it, and I just challenge us all to continue to add it to our morning, everyday routine. All right. I am just going to turn on some music, and I'm going to let it go a little bit longer today. All right, and I invite you just to sit back, close your eyes, no checking Facebook. I'm going to set my timer. Deep breath through the nose, out through the mouth. Anytime that you find your mind wandering, worrying, stressing, speeding up at all, just focus on the music, focus on your breath, bring it back. Slowly open your eyes. Take a few deep breaths. Stretch if you need to. Did anybody almost fall asleep? I'd love to hear in the chats, how do you feel after? And how long do you think that was? Three minutes, 5 minutes, 4 minutes. Yeah, relaxed. Yep, it was 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Yeah, so easy. It's so amazing how we can just kind of do this transformation in our mind in just 3 minutes. Cool, huh? It is. It's interesting how your mind just wants to go, like your mind wants to go, but yet it's such a discipline to slow down. And when you do slow down, there's so many benefits. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you. That's one of my favorite parts. Now, if we ever miss it, you guys are going to be like, Denise, you forgot the meditation. Which is true. Okay, so release the brakes. I'm going to read a little bit from my trusty Jack book to introduce this section, but Have you ever been driving in your car and suddenly realized you had left the emergency brake on? Did you push down harder on the gas to overcome the drag of the brake? No, of course not. You simply released the brake. And with no extra effort, you started to go faster. Most people drive through life with their psychological emergency brake on. They hold on to negative images about themselves or suffer the effects of powerful experiences they just haven't yet released. They stay in a comfort zone entirely of their own making. They maintain inaccurate beliefs about reality or harbor guilt and self-doubt. When they try to achieve their goals, these negative images and pre-programmed comfort zones tend to cancel out their good intentions. How hard they try.
We need salt.
Hold on. There we go. Successful people, on the other hand, have discovered that instead of using increased willpower as the engine to power their success, it's simply easier to release the brakes by letting go of and replacing their limited beliefs and changing their self-images. So releasing of the brakes is not about putting more effort in. It's not about having more willpower, trying harder, working more. It's truly letting go of guilt, shame, resentment, negative self-images, negative beliefs of others or the world, things that hang on to us emotionally that are distracting, to be honest. And at the end of the day, slow us. They're like the emergency brake. They just slow us down. And you can work as hard as you want, but if you have your emergency brake on, you're only going to go so fast. And today we are going to work on releasing those brakes. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. There's a few things that we're going to do. I've got 4 different topics that I'm going to work through. So we are going to break into our breakout rooms again, which is going to be really fun. And my plan, I can't plan or can't hope. I have to do. Remember the whole exercise, pick up the pen, try to pick up the pen, like you either do or you don't. So I am going to give you more time in the breakout sessions because I know that's been some feedback to have a little bit more time to talk. So the first thing that we're going to do is talk about our irritations and tolerations. So this one is a really interesting concept, and I did have you print off this form beforehand. If you do not have, do you guys have this printed off, or would you like me to post the link again? Post it, yeah, okay, no big deal. Even if you don't have it printed off, you can take a look at this and write a list on your own section. Like you can write it on a piece of paper, but I'll grab it. So there's the link to the handout. And here it is on the screen. So incompletes and messes. These are anything, in planning anything in life, it's nice to start with a clean slate, which allows you to focus on what is in front of you. So if we don't handle our irritations, these messes, these incompletes, these things that are like just bugging us throughout the day, they often can distract us on what we want to create. So examples are like, think of all different aspects of your life. These are just things that bug you, Messy garage, broken screen door, disorganized basement, incomplete projects, a cluttered inbox. For me, let me tell you this story. I have a treadmill, and as you know, I've been working out quite a bit on this treadmill for the past 6 months as I was training for this show. And the treadmill is from before Owen was born, so it's at least 7 or 8 years old. And it's like errors out. So I'll be in the middle of a sprint, hit cardio, going like 10 miles an hour, and it will just error out and stop. It is not very safe. But instead of getting it fixed, I learned to deal with it because every time it does that, it stops my time. So I have my stopwatch going on my phone. I have a timer so I can time my HIIT cardio. And then, I've figured out ways to work with this broken treadmill. I can tell you that there are so many times in our life when things are not working, when actually it's dangerous to keep going in that direction. It's dangerous for me to sprint on a broken treadmill that's going to just stop at any moment and air out. But yet we do it, and we figure out ways to live around it. But yet it's so irritating. It can be damaging. It can be, physically hurtful. Another example is when you put, when you get out a pen from your, junk drawer and it doesn't work, and you go, ugh, and then you put the pen back. Anybody done that? How many times you grab that same stinking pen? Throw it away. Throw it away. So after we did this with Jack, we came back and Brandon ordered a 4-thing toaster because we have 2 boys, and every time we wanted to make them a sandwich or 2 waffles each, we'd have to do this toaster twice. And it's so bothersome to him. He was like, this is really annoying to me that we have to do the toaster twice, so let's get a 4-thing toaster, an easy fix to this thing that's frustrating. And there's so many times in our life, you guys, where we just get used to it. We just let it, we work around it, but yet it's distracting and it's emotionally bugging us. So it's hard for me to wake up in the morning and have a good run and feel jolly when every 30 seconds I'm going, stop it. Why is it breaking? So needless to say, I did get a new treadmill for Christmas and I just ordered it and I'm very glad. But sometimes too, these things can be fixed without issues. So another example is if you are really working to build your business and the toilets are not getting cleaned, but this is a frustration in your home. I always used to tell my cleaning lady, she's like an amazing marriage counselor because how many fights are about a clean house. And so, maybe you need a cleaner, especially through the crazy months of the growth year. How much is it actually going to cost you? When I figured this out, it costs me $25 an hour for a cleaning lady in my old house. That was $75 to $100, and I had her once a month. So $100 a month to deep clean my house was absolutely worth letting go of that mental stress. Hanging on to all these irritations, messes, etc. is mental stress. And when we can let go of that, it frees our brain to actually be creative, to focus on what we want instead of all the stresses that keep popping up, And so sometimes what's irritating you is something that can be fixed and easily. You have a handyman that can come fix all this stuff, maybe whatever, I have someone that said they really want someone to do laundry. Well, there's colleges in town. There's care.com. There's so many ways that you can get these irritations fixed. They can. But it's very easy to not, because we just get used to it. We get comfortable running on a broken, dangerous treadmill. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes because I want you to mentally walk around your house. I'm going to give you another quick example. Every day I meal prep my food and I put it in the front seat. And every day as I drive to the gym or the school or wherever I'm going, it falls over. Every day. And I go, this is so frustrating. Why does this fall over? So I'm figuring out, okay, what can I do to fix this so it's not frustrating me every day? These are the types of things. So you want to mentally walk through your home and think about these just little irritations or frustrations, things that maybe you've gotten used to that you don't need to get used to, maybe you need more spoons because you never have spoons, whatever the case may be. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to think about this yourself, and then we're going to go into breakout so you can actually talk about what you can do about it. So I'm going to start the timer, and I am going to put on a little bit of background music. So go ahead and think about your own life. All right. So once you have created your list, I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and you'll see it at the bottom of this page. So if you printed it off, it's right there. Otherwise, you can write those questions down. What irritates you? What do you need to do to fix it? Who could you ask for help? How do you stop yourself from asking? What is the possible benefit of asking? And when will you ask? I think they're up here on this page too. So you can write those down. Once I break you into your groups, you won't have access to, you won't be able to see this page. But so write those down if you don't have them listed right in front of you. You know, I think number 4 is interesting to me. How do you stop yourself from asking? Before we break into groups, would anybody like to just post in the chats? What do you think that means? Like why would we stop ourselves from asking to, you know, like why would we do that? What does that even mean? Anybody have any ideas? Because I think that could be a tricky question. Yeah, you feel like you're burdening them. Makes you seem weak. Absolutely. Like we got it. Yeah. Feeling like you failed. It's easier to do it yourself. Overwhelming. Vulnerable. Yeah, putting yourself out there. Guilt. Yeah. Wanting to feel self-sufficient. Yeah, I think that's all so true. We stop ourselves from asking because we feel like we don't deserve it, because we feel like we're bothering someone, because we're, you know, all of these reasons that just aren't true. You know, one thing I've really learned in doing this work is to trust my guts, like what do I want, and like feel good about that, like feel like okay with wanting things and feeling okay with what I do want and what I, you know, where I am going. Because for a long time, I think that feeling guilty for wanting things to change or wanting something different for me, was what stopped me. Yeah. Becky says because her husband says that he will do it. So she doesn't want to. It's interesting. Maybe it'll be a relief to him to have it done, right? Thinking that no one will do a better job. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of ways we get in our own way, which is why movement isn't happening. So what I want to do is I'm going to break you into groups of 4, and I'd like you to just share 2 or 3 of the incompletes. I don't know how long, a toaster wouldn't take very long to talk about. My treadmill, like once you realize that it's so bothersome, like then you realize not to do it. Another irritation for me is my kids' clothes. Like they just so combined that they're not in the right spots, and it's hard in the morning to get rid. Those are things that really can make a big difference in your day. And so I would like you to choose 2 or 3 that really stand out to you and go through these questions together as a group. So if you've got one that you think will take a little bit longer, then you can just do one. But if you've got, like a toaster, and again, you get to the action. What are you going to do? Who are you going to ask? How are you going to make this different? So does that make sense? Anybody have any questions about this first breakout? All right. Let's see. All right, there's going to be 3 or 4 people per room. Remember, you can raise your hand and I can come answer questions while you're in your room if you have any questions. And I'll give you about 8 or so minutes to complete this exercise. So let me know if you need anything. Okay. All right. Well, welcome back from your breakouts, you guys. I want to hear, what are some of the things you identified as being an irritation or incomplete in your life, something that you're tolerating, but it doesn't have to be that way? What are some of the things that you learned in your breakout session? Housework, clutter on the counter, messes everywhere, trusting a babysitter, mail pileup. Ooh, good. Crazy laundry, clutter, organization, rude customers. Okay. Laundry, messes. Yeah, organization's a big one. So what did you decide that you're going to do about it? Like, who are you going to ask? What are you going to do to clean this up so that it doesn't just irritate you every single day and get in your head? Time management in the morning. Awesome. Yeah. Good job, Sarah. You already decluttered, so you can tell us some tips. Organization, storage, yes. Just do it. Yes, schedule it in, because you're not just doing it, right? Put it in your calendar. All right, for an hour every day for the next week, I'm going to organize the kitchen. Or I'm going to organize this room one night and this room next night, whatever. Like, schedule it in. It's got to be scheduled. It's got to be intentional. It's got to be a part of it. Ah, that is the irritation, Elizabeth. Only one outlet in the bathroom, so she can't blow dry her hair and warm up the flat iron at the same time. So tell me, what can you do about that? Confianza, another stress reliever. Yeah. Utilize the time when your mother-in-law has the boys. Yeah. So it's really about just being intentional. Put a checklist in place, ask help from children and husband. Warm it up in another room. Good idea. See? Splitter outlet. Yeah. Ordering outlet extender on Amazon. Absolutely. It's like a $3 fix. Something that is annoying every morning, Elizabeth, is a $3 fix, right? It's pretty cool. Okay. Well, I hope that you at least had some time to have some to mentally walk around your home, and you will, now that we've talked about it, notice some more things. And the goal, guys, is when you have these little irritations that consistently pop up in your life, these tolerations, these things that we're comfortable with but really aren't safe or helpful, or there's easy fixes to this, easy fixes. And if we just intentionally fix it, it frees up this mental space. So cool. All right. Well, good job. So next we have now cleared our physical environment, our external space. We are now going to talk about some negative emotions that may hold us back. And guilt and resentment are a part of that. So guilt is a result about having a belief about what you should or shouldn't be, or an action or inaction that violates that belief. So to get rid of the guilt, you must either change your belief of the action, or you can't change past actions, right? So the only thing you can do is understand why you made that decision. So guilt is really about, I did something bad and I feel guilty, right? So I drunk and drive and I got a DUI and I feel bad about that. I feel guilt about that. Whatever it was, I stole and now I'm in jail, whatever, whatever you did. So guilt is all about doing something and feeling bad about it, feeling guilty about it. I hurt someone or whatever. And sometimes the guilt is warranted and sometimes it's not. For example, I feel guilty about asking my husband to do the dishes. Like, is that real guilt, right? Is that something we really should feel guilty about? Let's talk about that. Or I feel guilty about, harming my next door neighbor. Like, okay, so sometimes we do feel like the guilt is warranted, but it doesn't mean that we have to hold on to it. So when you take a look at this feeling of guilt, if there's any areas that are stirred up with this feeling of guilt, we want to first ask, is that something that's helping me now? In jail situations or judge situations, if the defendant feels guilty or remorseful, then they often get a lighter sentence. So sometimes we think we're being better people because we feel guilty. We think, I did do, I was harmful in that situation, or this did happen and I feel guilty about that. And we think that holding on to that guilt makes us better. But yet it really is baggage that's holding us back. So, you can finish the sentence Elizabeth just wrote. I feel guilty when, start thinking, does anything pop up for you? And then the resolution for this guilt is, and again, this is like another whole huge section. So we're just kind of skimming the surface today, but I think it's really valuable information. The guilt the guilt full circle often is I did the best that I could with the information that I had at that time. Now that I know better, I can do better. Right? I did the best that I could with the information I had at that time. Now that I know better, I can do better. I feel guilty when I don't play with my son enough. And I say no to people. When you leave your dogs home for more than a couple of hours. So sometimes it's warranted and sometimes it's not necessarily. Can they be safe for more than a couple hours? We can play with that a little bit. Shame is so guilt is I did something that violates a certain belief. So I did something that violates this belief and I feel guilty about it. So for Elizabeth, your example is that you leave your dog home for a couple of hours. So your belief is my dog should not be home for more than a couple of hours by themselves. And there's probably a lot of reasons why you have that. Maybe they pee on your floor. Maybe they were puppies and, maybe, who knows? There's a lot of reasons why you have that belief. So in order to not feel guilty, you either change that belief or you stop doing that thing, right? You either come home every couple hours or you change the belief that they can stay home most of the day by themselves and they're okay. I feel guilty when I can't make my family happy. When I say no to people. So the belief then is that So I'll take the say no to people. The belief with that would be that a good person says yes to everyone. Connie, Alana, would you like a good person says yes or is helpful? A good person, I'm going to write this down. So a good person, now I know what I need to have a slide about. A good person says yes. A good person doesn't leave their dogs more home for a couple of hours. A good person plays with my son. You know, Kim, you would have to say how long is enough? Like, what is enough? I don't play with my son enough. What does that look like? This is the belief that you have that, that you're violating. And that's where the guilt comes from, right? So we either change the action or we change the belief. Guilty that you're working on your phone a lot. Guilty when I'm away from my family too much. Okay, so what you want to do is quantify that. A good person is home every night for dinner. A good person is playing, 5 hours a day with my son. Oh. A good person has a dog sitter. Boom, there's your irritation fixed, Elizabeth. That, I think that's true. A good person has, figure out what this belief is. This is the belief. Okay, and the guilt comes from violating the belief, and except when, okay, so a good person, I'll do the family one too, because I've felt this before as well. So a good mom, now remember, my mom was a stay-at-home mom who made dinner every night. And I went through a lot of this when I was really building my business, like, can't be everything to everyone, and you can't, it's crazy. So I realized my mom was not building a multi-million-dollar organization when she was doing this, right? So in my mind, a good mom was home and we had dinner on the table every night. Or a good mom plays with my kids several hours a day, or whatever it is. Except when they're building a multi-million-dollar organization. Except when, like, what happens where we're violating this belief? I've learned over the years, a good person, in my mind, a good mom, in my mind, now has shifted to a good mom plays intentionally with my kids for several hours, but I can't do it for 10 hours. Like, who can play with their kids for 10 hours? So it's okay when you take a break from me time. It makes me better. So you are working through this belief and giving yourself a break. So let's talk about resentment really quick. Resentment is about another person. Resentment is about this belief that you think they should have, or, resentment is about the belief is about what they should be doing. So resentment is often when someone else breaks your belief. And resentment can be a really harboring thing because we can't change another person. We just can't. So when we're talking about resentment, it's really a wound that we get to heal ourselves, because at the end of the day, the other person can't be in charge of our feelings, right? So if they did do something that's harmful, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't feel angry or whatever. But what this is saying is that resentment is something that we are holding on to that's hurting us, and it's not hurting the other person. So exactly, forgiveness is needed. Forgiveness is needed, not for them, but for you, because you want to live a full, focused, powerful life, and resentment really is harming you in the long run. Let me see if I have any. So, resentments could be, a friend always shows up late, right? So you Connie, resentment is like drinking poison and hoping your enemies will die. Oh, that's so true. That's so true. And as we've said, there's 3 ways to solve a problem. You change it, accept it, or stay miserable. Change it, accept it, and stay miserable. And sometimes you have to set boundaries and say, no, I'm choosing, you know, if you have a friend that always shows up late and you're starting to get resentful towards them, maybe you say, okay, I'm setting a boundary. Like, you're obviously not my friend as much or whatever. You don't care about my time. Or you say, oh, please be on time or else I'm going to leave. If you're 15 minutes late, I'm going to just go. You know, you're setting boundaries to protect yourself but harboring that resentment is hurtful. So, yes. So resentful towards spouses is definitely, the closer the person, the more potential for resentment you found. Absolutely. Let go of what you cannot control and focus on what you can. Yeah. Relationships like that are really close because sometimes they do things that are harmful to us, like where it hurts our feelings. You know what I mean? And even if they don't mean to do it, I find especially when someone's not working and someone is, and there's kind of this difference of roles, it's really easy to point fingers at each other and be like, well, I'm doing all this. And they're like, I'm doing all this. You don't really know what the other person is doing because you have got such different roles. I fixed that a little bit in our house because I shrank several of Brandon's sweaters and he no longer lets me do his laundry. When I was like, why would I do your laundry? We're both working. Like, do your own laundry. So resentment is about someone else. So things that they have done that you feel hurt about. And so I am going to post the guilt and resentment handout thing. If you guys have not said that, yes, the serenity prayer, absolutely. You know, and for us, we've had some, let me see. I posted a resentment and guilt handout for you guys to kind of work through. Let me post it again for those that didn't get to see it. And what I'd love for you to do is to pull it up on your screen, even if you don't have a printer, you can pull it up and then okay, let me get this link for you. Answer the questions right there. So just take a minute. The first one is, what do you feel guilty for? I feel guilty for. Just write it out. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to solve it. You don't have to answer any questions just yet. Just write it out. Because sometimes we don't even realize that it's there. What action or non-action do you feel guilty about? What belief or should does that action or non-action violate? What's unrealistic about that belief? In relation to this action or non-action, can you change your past behavior? So how can you get rid of the guilt? By changing the belief. So a quick example about this is, even if, for example, this, person is feeling guilty about stealing or something that they truly should feel guilty about, right? The belief that you accept is, I did the best that I could with the information that I had. And if I was a 17-year-old starving, like I was hungry, I didn't have any other options, I didn't know there was a better way, you know what I mean? Like, we did the best that we could with the information that we had. And now that we know better, we can do better. So, but most of the time, the things that we feel guilty about. So this is something you're going to do in your group. And then questions for resentment. So who do you resent? Let's do the guilt first, and then we're going to come back and then do the resentment because it's kind of two different things. So does anybody have any questions? I'm going to move you into your groups for about 8 minutes again, 5 to 8 minutes, if each of you could just go through these questions once. So the first person is the first person who goes is the person with the shortest hair. And that person will go first, and then you'll go around the group, and then that person will do a second one, and you'll go around the group as many times as you can. And you'll answer those questions. Any questions before I move you? Let me know if you've got any questions. Raise your hand and I'll come hang out. All right, so we're doing just the guilt paper right now in your breakouts. Okay, welcome back from your breakout groups. Hi, Nicole, glad to see you on. How was dance? Good. She didn't get kicked out, did she?
No dance today.
No dance today. Oh, good. Okay. Nicole kept her home from dance so she could be on our call. I was like, you're so precious. But she doesn't need to get kicked out. Okay. So tell me in the chats here, or if anybody wants to unmute yourself, any aha moments going through this exercise with your breakout groups. Go ahead, Sarah, if you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, so when Mike was talking about feeling guilty with someone who passed, and you can't really change your past with that person, not spending enough time with them and stuff, my aha moment just kind of clicked, even though I didn't share this with my group, was, my granny passed away and I didn't spend enough time with her before she was passing away, and I knew she was going to go soon. But then my papa was going, and so I made it intentional where I would make up that lost time. At least I couldn't do it with her, I can do it with my papa. So that's a little kind of aha moment that I had.
Awesome. Good. You did the best that you could with the information and life situation at the time. And when you knew better, you did better.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you for sharing. Who else? Kelsey, go ahead.
Hi. So I was talking about how I feel like I don't have enough time for the kids, and I kind of put like laundry and house stuff on the back burner, or I'll say, oh, I'll make up time for it later. And Jessica was like, that's the stuff that adds more stress. So you need to tackle that first, or tackle it while you're playing with the kids, like fold laundry and kind of play goldfish or do the puzzle, or kind of be there, but don't put anything on the back burner because it'll stay on the back burner and cause more problems.
It's that irritation that you can kind of get fixed, so then, or you can kill two birds with one stone. How old are your kids?
7 and 5.
I was gonna say, do they like doing chores with you? Because my kiddos are still at the age where they like to help.
They like to put things away, but certain chores like cleaning toilets and picking up dog poop, not it's like a fight. So I pick and choose my battles, which I need to stop doing because it's causing me more stress and more irritation.
Right. Good. Good. Who else? Any aha moments or guilts that they recognize they can let go of?
So what about the guilt when I guess more fear and guilt, like I don't want to do this because if I fail, then I'm going to be like, I'm going to feel bad if I don't give my all into this one particular area. Like if I don't give my all into my kids, then I feel bad that I didn't give them my 100% undivided attention. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So in your mind, a good person is, or a good mom is?
Somebody who spends time with their kids.
How much time?
I don't know. I am home a lot, so I don't know.
So what?
I don't have a time.
So what belief, so not spending time with your kids is violating the belief that a good mom always spends time with their kids, right?
Right.
So what is unrealistic about that belief?
I don't know.
Is it unrealistic to think that you can play puzzles for 12 hours a day?
Yes. Yes, it is.
All the moms are saying, yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's unrealistic to believe that you can really like play puzzles and really be fully on engaged, like, you know, all of that for 12 hours a day. So how can we, so we can't change. Is there a certain specific situation you're thinking about when you think about this guilt?
Well, see, okay, so the kid thing was more, yeah, the kid thing was more of like an example. I think it's more of like, okay, like, and kind of like the business, like if I put it in the business aspect, like I didn't hit my goal, like I feel more guilty than my husband would feel guilty or feel bad for me. Like he would be just like, oh, whatever, like you didn't do it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like he would move on, whereas I would feel more guilty, like, oh my gosh, I didn't hit this goal that I really wanted to hit. Okay. Like I guess the kid one was kind of an example.
Okay.
I try not to have guilt. I have 3 kids. Like I can't be all to every one of them at all one time. Like I get that.
Absolutely. Well, and it's true. And in response to the kid one, I think a lot of moms feel that way. We feel guilty when we're working the business because we should be with our kids, and we feel guilty when we're with our kids because we should be working the business. And so there's this constant back and forth where we should, rather than really being 100% where we are at that time. And if we can be 100% working the business during the time we're working the business, and then 100% with our kids the time we're working our kids, you know, with our kids, then I think we can take away that belief that we need to be all things to everyone all the time. In terms of hitting your goal and not missing it, it sounds like that's disappointment. Like that's, you know, that's setting a goal and then working hard and maybe falling short. And then my question to you would be, are you further ahead than you were when you started? You know, you might not have hit Ruby, but do you have a couple of customers? Have you learned some things? You know what I mean? We would go back to the hard and fast deadline and how you can continue to create momentum. But fear of success, fear of failure, fear of all of that is such a normal part of the journey. Accept it as being a normal part of the journey and then work through it. You know, I think a lot of times that we think that it means we shouldn't do it. You know, oh, I have this fear, or I have this, maybe that means I shouldn't pursue this goal, when in fact it's just a part of the process. No matter what your goal is, whether you want to lose 10 pounds or you want to whatever, you go through all of those similar emotions. But so I don't know if that's helpful, but I think that you definitely can work through the belief that I have to hit this goal, and if I don't, I suck. Because that's the belief that is making you feel guilty, and that's not true.
Yes, thank you.
Brittany, did you have a question? Oh, Becky has a question. Yes, Becky, go ahead. You can unmute. There you go.
So mine was not as much of a question as an aha, which was more the more you do this, the more you discover, because for me, it was obviously the thing. I have 4 kids, so it's spending time with them. And I also have a husband and a house, and now I have this job, and, you know, I'm doing all of these things, and where does my time go? And then being intentional with the time. And my aha in the group was literally putting it in the calendar. I know I can do all of these things, because if you think about it, it only takes this much time to spend with your kids or your husband, and then you can work this much on your job, and then you can also do your housework, and that doesn't take you 12 hours to do or whatever. And then as I'm going through that in my head, it's my fear. Because if I do make the time for all of this, then everything is going to be good, and I might be successful, and I might hit diamond, and I might hit ambassador. And then I get my own fear is like, oh, well, if I just don't do this and do everything all at once and try to make excuses for why I'm not in a schedule, then I don't have to face that fear of being successful.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
The ways we stop ourselves.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Well, now that you know better, you can do better.
Yeah.
And you can't let that fear of success, which is normal part of the process, right, stop you.
Thank you.
You want to be diamond or else you wouldn't be here, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. One more. Any other aha moments you want to share? Yeah. Cannot make assumptions. Brittany says she feels guilty for not being as successful in the business for being in for so long. So the belief is, right, a good person, a good at works distributor is diamond in 9 days. Just kidding. But we have this belief, right? And is that really true? Except when life's happening, except when I've got, we do the best with the information we have at the time. And when you know better, you can do better. So when you think about that guilt, think about what is the belief that you're violating, and then you can work through that belief and go through these questions. What's realistic about the belief? What's unrealistic? How can you break that down so that way at the end of the day, the goal was with whatever guilt that you are experiencing, the goal is to change the belief that you have connected with it. The belief that you have connected with it, and to let go, because we know it's not helping us today. We can learn from it. That guilt is a warning sign. That's something, it's a cue that we use, but it's not helping us today. So in order to learn from it and let go and move forward, we want to change the belief so that way we can do those things. All right, well, I'm going to get you into your groups again, and we're going to spend a few minutes. I think after this one, we'll only have one more group session, so we will end on time today. That's right. Learn and let go. The next one is resentment, and this one is, again, geared towards someone else breaking or violating your belief. So, again, you have this belief on what things should be, and someone breaks it. And so that is upsetting to you. So when you're talking about resentment, so the first question is, who do you resent? What action or non-action do you resent them for? What belief or expectation about how they should be or how they should act, right? What's unrealistic about your beliefs and expectations? What can you change that person or their action? How does keeping this unrealistic belief make you feel? Is it worth it? How can you get rid of the resentment? So this one might be a little trickier, at least for me when I was working through it. This one was a little bit trickier because you still feel hurt sometimes, but that's, where you can, sometimes you got to do it a lot. You can't just do a exercise one time and feel completely healed, but it's definitely a part of the one step in the journey. So does anybody have any questions about the resentment piece? Because again, this can be distracting. Yes, Becky.
Just, can you throw some examples out? I'm struggling with this a lot. And my husband said him.
Your mom.
In-laws. In-laws are always, yeah. Let's see. An example, it could even be, think of a silly example is maybe someone who is constantly late for your meetings, and so you are becoming angry at them because they're constantly late and it impacts your day, and so the belief is that they should be on time. Okay, so they should be on time, they're violating that. What's unrealistic about that belief? Well, maybe they've hit traffic, or maybe they've got lots of kids, or maybe things are going on, right? Can we change them and they're being late? Not necessarily. So what you would do in that situation is you could do a few things. Number one, you could not hang out with them anymore. Number two, you could ask them to be on time and set a boundary, like I will leave at 10 after if you're not here yet, because I don't know when you're going to show up. And then 3, you can just accept that they are going to be late and you bring something like a book to read. So, something that is irritating to you, they're violating a belief that you have. Tell them to meet 15 minutes earlier. Yeah. So you have a belief, but they're violating it. Guilt is you're violating your own belief. Resentment is they're violating that belief. And a lot of times, in-laws are a great example. Like, this is not the way we do things. This is not the way we do Christmas. This is not the way we do and we can harbor change. Welcome back from your groups. We'll take just about a few minutes to share any aha moments or anything that came up during that. I'm asking you guys to do some hard stuff tonight. More time was needed. Okay. Do we want to go back for a few more minutes? Okay. I'm going to send you back for 2 to 3 more minutes. I want everyone to feel complete. All right. Welcome back from your breakouts. I just started the recording again. I appreciate the vulnerability you guys share in doing these breakout sessions. I've done this myself, so I know the power of speaking it out loud, identifying things, speaking it out loud, and then working through them. So we've gone through externally irritations, what can you fix in your physical environment? We've talked internally. We've got 2 more that we're going to work through. This one won't take as long, but this one is about increasing your own personal integrity, keeping your own agreements. And it really is about trusting yourself. And when I think about this, the last one was about, trusting others and just relationships with other people and yourself in a sense of having those beliefs. But what about trusting yourself? So in this exercise that I'm going to share with you, I normally have a volunteer. So I'm not quite sure how we're going to do it without a physical volunteer in my workshop. So I'm going to use my water bottle. So I'm going to pretend that this water bottle is my inner self. And I'm going to make an agreement with this inner self. We're learning here. Okay. So do you all know what a donkey is? It's like an animal. It's a horse. It's a little bit more stubborn. I have to train myself, and in this case, the donkey, my inner self, will represent the donkey. So I'm going to teach my inner self how things work. So, okay, this is forward, right? This is backwards. This is right. And this is left. Okay, so I'm teaching myself how things go. Forward, backward, right, and left. Okay, my inner self has gotten it. Forward, backward, left, right. They know what's going on. So now that I've trained myself to know what forward is, what keeping my agreements looks like, what getting up on time looks like, what working out when you say you're going to, when you're sticking to your time schedule, when you're sticking to your meal plan, when you're teaching your inner self all of these things, just like going forward, backward, right, and left. You're teaching your inner self what life looks like. So what if your alarm goes off, right, and your inner self says, oh, time to get up, and yet you clock the snooze over and over and over again. So your inner self is trying to go forward. That's what it said. Get up, go forward. That's what you're telling it. But yet you're pulling it back by pressing the snooze. Your inner self wants to go forward. You're pulling it back. Eventually, your inner self is going to be confused. You want me to get up? Do you want me to get up? Do you not want me to get up? I don't understand. You told me to go forward, but yet you're holding me back. You told me to go forward, yet you're holding me back. And so the inner self feels tired, confused, unmotivated. How many of you have ever felt tired, confused, unmotivated? Often it's because we stop believing ourselves. We lose integrity with ourselves. How many times have you been like, I blew it, and I don't even, we say we want something, but we don't even believe that we're going to do it ourselves. I'm going to wake up tomorrow on time so I can work out, I promise, right? Well, so many times we've done this to ourselves that we don't even trust that we're going to do that. And so, let's see. Have you ever met someone that comes in with a sense of power, charisma, and when they say something, you trust that it's going to happen? And then there are other people where you don't get that same sense of certainty. That sense of power and certainty comes from with keeping agreements with yourself. Certainty is clarity. If I'm absolutely clear about something, I know it will happen. Having integrity with your word is the same thing. We want to get to a place where our word matters because they have power, where we can trust ourselves to keep our own agreements. And let that sink in a minute, because it can be as simple as, are you waking up in the morning? Do I believe that you're going to even stick to it? Or is it, I'm going to go diamond? I don't believe myself. Do you trust that you are going to take the action to do it? Or are you second guessing and waffling all over the place? Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Erica and Connie, I know. When I first heard that, it was a big eye-opener to me, just the importance of keeping agreements to ourselves, because that strengthens our core. That strengthens our trust within ourselves. It strengthens our clarity. So, increasing your personal integrity by keeping your own agreements. All right. I am going to move on to the next one. Ooh, that's good. Sarah is mentioning that this was on, some of this stuff was on the Show Me the Money call. Yeah. It's because these people they've experienced success. They've worked through all of this stuff. It's so cool how it all connects. Okay, last but not least, we are going to end this by talking about our external. So again, we've worked on physical things, we've worked on guilt, resentment with others, things we've harbored or held on to that we need to release. We've talked about increasing our own personal, what was the word? Integrity. And now we're going to talk about our connections, our relationships, our circle of friends, our circle of influence. And I do have a piece of paper for you with this one. Let me get to it really quick. But really, you really don't need it. On a piece of paper, what I want you to do is write down the names of the top maybe 10 to 15 people that you hang out with on a regular basis. So people that you hang out with, just write their names down on a piece of paper. In person. Well, good question, Tammy. I would say no, just talking to. It could be on the phone. It could be because they still have an influence on your life. So definitely in person, but also really just relationships in general. Well, they don't have to be even like close, but it could be who do you hang out with, If you're hanging out with us, hey, that's good. We're nice. If you're hanging out, with soap opera stars watching soap operas all day, you know, who are you spending time with? Maybe it's 10, maybe it's 5, who knows? I'm going to read through the script while you are writing down these because I have not done this exercise before. So the first time I always try to read it and get it right and then I memorize it. So let's see. Do you know people who walk into the room who totally drain you of energy? There are people in your life who simply by calling you on the phone create tension, stress, and disorder in your day. Yes, I have had that. Well, what about those people who brighten the room when they enter it? Do you have friends, mentors, and others in your life who radiate energy, optimism, support, encouragement? Well, it's always interesting to ask yourself what kind of person you are. The success principle to learn here is that there are more nourishing or both nourishing people in our lives and toxic ones. Yes, energy vampires. Toxic people are negative. They're dream stealers. And although they don't know that they're doing it, they dissuade us from our goals, keep us from achieving excellence, tell us we're not worthy, and constantly attempt to bring us down to their level. By contrast, positive people are nurturing, empowering, inspiring, encouraging, supportive, and proactively helpful. They believe in you, applaud you, they're possibility thinkers, they're fun to be around, and they feel you deserve to succeed at the highest level possible. So as you can see, the negative person drains energy. They're the energy vampires. The positive person exudes energy and passion and love when they enter the room. So I want to do a quick exercise. So if you all could just close your eyes for a moment and imagine your neighbor just won the lottery. Not a little jackpot, but $1 million a year for life. How do you feel? I can tell you most people feel resentful. Instead of responding with, way to go, one of my friends hit the jackpot, most people react negatively. They're jealous and resentful. Unfortunately, the negative reaction to this training exercise is not too different from real life. In fact, some toxic people are actually addicted to negativity. Toxic personalities actually need to keep you from succeeding at a higher level because you threaten their level of comfort. They're happy being negative and mediocre. Yet you threaten to expose this side of their personality when you set an ambitious, goal-oriented, forward-thinking, positive goal. To counteract this threat from you, toxic people try to discourage you from moving forward by saying things like, oh, or who are you kidding? You'll never do that. There's never been a kid from this neighborhood who went to college. Remember the last time you tried that? It was a total failure. You know, they'll never let a college student do that. You know, why try? You always gain the weight back. Take it from me, a horrible mistake. Unfortunately, all too often, comments like this leave us wondering, what if I am making a mistake, right? Has anybody ever had that where you tell someone your dream and they bash it and then you go, oh, maybe it is a silly dream. Maybe I shouldn't be dreaming like that. Who am I kidding? We start to second guess ourselves because of what they, you know, it's their stuff, not our stuff. It's their stuff. They're the ones that are toxic and negative and jealous, and our dreaming threatens them, and so they don't want us to move away from them. By contrast, you want people in your life who say, great idea, you can do it, here's what you'll need, how can I help? Positive people coach us, they mentor us, they're proactively helpful. They come through with ideas that help us expand our goal. They make us believe we can achieve all that and more. And the good news is positive people are easy to find. The thing is that toxic people can often make us feel guilty for leaving them, or we feel guilty because they need us. I mean, there's so much that goes into why we stay in toxic relationships. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, is this healthy for me? Is this helping me achieve my goals, creating the life that I want? Is this a helpful or hindrance, right? We will not have time to do another breakout, but after your list, I want you to write your list of your people. What you'll want to do is put a positive sign, a plus sign, if they're a positive influence in your life, and a minus sign if they're a negative influence in your life. If they're neutral or have no impact, leave it blank. For example, maybe somebody is normally a very positive person, and when you talk to them, but they're going through a hard time. So right now, there might not be that positive, but generally they are. You can leave that blank. But the idea with this is just to assess who we are truly spending our time with, because we know that we become what we think about. And we often think like the 5 people that we're hanging out with. So we want to be mindful of these outside relationships. Are we setting ourselves up for failure by continuing to stay in unhealthy or toxic relationships? Or are you able to choose more positive ones? So Jen, that's interesting. Okay, so I'd love to hear from you guys. Jen says a list of 8, 4 were positive and the other 4 were neutral or positive. That's good. Not too bad. Sarah, share with us your, neutral or negative. Okay, got it. Yeah, so isn't that interesting? 4 were positive and 4 were neutral or negative. So then you have to evaluate, is this a relationship that's still helpful to me in my life? I think a lot of us, at least I know in my circle, there's people we hang out with that from high school. Like if we met on the street today, we wouldn't necessarily be friends with, but because there's this tie from years ago, we feel obligated sometimes. And we just have to evaluate, make a conscious decision. Conscious decision. Yes. So Jessica said when they're the negative people are in-laws or people you don't feel like you can physically get away from. Jen, the neutral negative people are extremely close to your heart. Okay, so you care about them. That's, I think that's the thing. It doesn't mean you don't have to care about them, but it also means do you have to spend a ton of your good time with them? Or you can take their feedback with a grain of salt. Sometimes we say consider the source. If they're a negative, neutral person, maybe we don't take their feedback to heart. Yes, Connie, I love that. I've been working on this and your negatives are out. Good for you. I just am so proud of you, Connie. You really have blossomed and continue to. Mike has 5, 2 negative, and the 2 negative friends are from 20 years ago. That's what I find. You think, like, if I met you on the street today, would we be friends? And if the answer is no, then why are we still friends? And it doesn't mean we're rude or we're ditching people. It means that we're choosing to spend time in other areas that are helping us better our lives. And if they want to be a part of that, then they can come too. But that doesn't mean that you have to drag them or that you have to go hang out with them to get them to move, because that never works. Cool, Donna. She says she didn't realize that she doesn't spend time with her negatives. Oh, Sarah, that's very interesting. Okay, she says that all of hers are positive, but she's her own worst enemy. So sometimes you're your own, Okay. So you want to put a plus sign by yourself. Those are things to practice. Well, very cool. Well, I don't want to be too much longer, but as you can see on the screen, we cleaned up our physical irritations, we let go and resolved internal guilt and resentment, and increased personal integrity, and we are mindful of outside relationships. When you set yourself up for success by removing these roadblocks, by removing the brake. You're removing the brake. You'll work just as hard, but when you remove the brake, you will go amazingly faster. Awesome. Well, congratulations, you guys, on the aha moments you guys have had. And it's, my hope is we're providing the material, but you're the ones that are doing the work, and you're actually doing the work. And I'm just really proud of you. So next week is probably one of the most important. It'll be right after Christmas, but we're going to be talking about taking action. Ask, 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 a principle. There's a whole book about asking that really was helpful for me, and using feedback to our advantage, because all of this is for naught if we don't do something different. So next week we are going to talk about taking action, breaking through your own glass ceiling, and getting the life you deserve. So thank you guys so much. We'll be here next week. Bye.